Fantastic Four, I don't know if you can really say that it was a flop because this box office had been soft the whole summer.
The theater to streaming window is like what, 30 days now?
Yeah, that was
like 25 to 30 days.
That depends on the studio. That has nothing to do with Fantastic Four just yet because Disney still has them running.
Right, it's still.
So I don't. But they keep dropping off big numbers each week. So they're going to slow crawl to 500 mil, and they're not going to make 600 mil before it's pulled, unless there's some kind of thing that happens that get people back into the theaters. You're just having this big drop off. Weapons had I think 20% drop off from last week from its debut. Mm-hmm. So it's just across the board. People don't have. I think it's the inflation and recession stuff, but
also like IMAX films cost 34. Like I backed out on going to see Superman in IMAX because $35. Like I don't know. I'm not. First of all, it wasn't filmed in IMAX, and I think there's a major difference between filmed for IMAX and filmed in IMAX. Filmed in IMAX, I will spend $35. I'll spend $40. If it looks and feels and has the cinematography of an Oppenheimer that was filmed completely end to end in IMAX, then yes, because it's eye-watering. It's when something is properly filmed in IMAX with a good cinematographer, it is absolutely eye-watering and worth every dime that you spend.
But the IMAX wasn't the draw, so that was only that would have only boosted if it had been filmed in IMAX. Well, that's my point.
Like people aren't, and people may want to go see it. Like every IMAX showing opening weekend that I've been to for the last decade
doesn't drive up the numbers though, because it's only in certain parts of the country. So
that's true.
You have a lot of IMAX theaters
and then proper IMAX theaters, right? Yeah.
But like me, as someone that lives in, the middle or the southern parts of the country, you're talking about having
they have IMAX theaters, but
25 to 30 miles to see that to a whole nother town, sometimes a whole nother state, just to see it in IMAX. So I think that's not the driver.
Okay.
So fun fact, the top grossing movie of the month so far, it's only been 2 weeks, is Weapons. And then right after Weapons is Fantastic Four, Bad Guys 2, Freakier Friday, The Naked Gun, Superman, Jurassic World, Together, F1, and Nobody 2. This is just for these past 2 weeks, not the summer.
And that's the top 10, you said?
But that was the top 10 just for
okay.
Yeah, for the last 2 weeks.
It just Fantastic Four, number 2, right?
That's for its number 2, yeah. But it's still sitting at about just about 250 mil. And then Superman's already broke about 335. Jurassic World 320. Okay, F1
and that's just domestically. So
domestic just totally gross. Yeah,
total.
That's kind of interesting. Very interesting.
Very.
Yeah, Fantastic Four if you just remove all of the factors that we just mentioned, okay, and all of those things by any metric, it's a box office flop, okay, because of all of the money that was spent to put it together, to make it.
Would you say that of Superman as well?
How much?
What I said for Superman made a third of its profit back on, I think, on the domestic. Or how much did they spend on Superman? 2 mil? Same 200 mil?
200, I think. 250, somewhere thereabout.
And then how much did Superman make?
Wait to get the numbers. So for Fantastic Four, budget is about 200. Total box office, including overseas, is now sitting at about 469. Superman is probably similar in terms of budget wise.
Superman budget was 225.
Yep. All right. And so now it's at what, 595 as a thing. Yeah, I mean, I think
globally, but it'll also cross 600 after this weekend.
Exactly. So I think for me, a flop is I was going to say a flop for me. I take this back. I would say doubling your budget is not a flop. That means you basically made your money back. Essentially,
but double your budget, not making your budget.
You got to double it. Yeah.
That may be a personal metric, but I'm talking about like the way that the studio looks at it.
The studio measurement, from what I recall, is 2.5 times what it costs to make it. It's 2/3 of the budget. And I know this because
to bring it back.
To bring it back.
Domestic.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So that's the case. So both Spider-Man, I said Spider-Man, Superman and Fantastic Four maybe just beat it. Maybe.
In any other year, they would be flops.
Right.
But I think because of the circumstances that's surrounding both films, you can't call them a flop because they both made half of what they spent back, over half of what they spent. And when it's all said and done, they would have made close enough to that 2/3 of what basically tripling what they spent. Right. So they'll get close enough. And I think the conventional wisdom for releasing early in digital is to suggest, Superman's got some momentum, but the momentum is not still there in people going to theater. Now, with this release now on streaming.
On pay-per-view specifically. Yeah, it's paid, exactly. It's paid video on demand.
It's paid video on demand, but you're going to get I've been seeing posts all day. I just saw Superman for the first time. That means that person spent either $25 to rent it or they spent $30 to buy it. Right. So people are making that decision to stay home and spend the extra dough.
And I think you're right. I think it's like you said, it's about like double. And now, usually when they release numbers, it's always the production cost. They never talk about the marketing. And Superman marketing easily would have probably added an extra $100 million.
Extra $100 million, easy.
Easily.
Definitely.
Easily.
Definitely.
So you're right. So if that's the case, So I mean, it'll probably be a break even moment, and like I think the jump to pay per view is actually smart. I think because like you said, now people that don't go to the movies will just be like, oh, I'm gonna just go buy it right now, like that. So I'm curious to see how Fantastic Four, because like Fantastic Four, they're letting it run for pretty much the rest of the summer, and that's
that's the usual Marvel schedule. Like they don't.
And that's the usual.
They don't pull them early.
Yeah. But I think that they're probably going to want to double think that at this point with or they're going to have to stop spending as much money because this wasn't the payoff that they wanted. And not to get too much into that, but here you have, I think with the Fantastic Four, it's a good movie, solid, so I think they can still make money. There's no reason to pull it right now, but future strategy might say, give us if it's still pulling,
leave it in theaters or do both.
Yeah, true. You can do both, but I'm saying we're talking big drop offs, not like 10%, not 15%. We're talking
20, 30,
20, 30 drop offs. I said when you have that situation, it might be something to consider. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're still making money. We could possibly leave it in the limited theaters, the coastal cities and stuff like that, or a few cities in the Midwest, the major places. But then let's go ahead and do an early release and see what that gets us. We won't lose a lot as much doing it that way as if the normal box office release. It's not the same stakes or whatever.
And if there were any questions about whether or not our phones are listening to us, and I'm not bullshitting, that just popped up a Variety article that says over the weekend, Superman added 3.1 million overseas and 8.4 million globally. At this point, Superman currently is at 595 million and is unlikely to surpass the haul of the character's last solo outing in 2013, Man of Steel, which flew to 670 million. I wouldn't even make that comparison.
Which is a stupid comparison for many. Not a stupid comparison, but it's not.
It's a bad comparison.
It's not a good comparison. Yes, I compared it to Iron Man, and when I looked at the numbers today, I'm glad I did, because it was a very similar outcome. Now, obviously, we have to adjust for inflation and all that stuff, but we're not so far away from that. That was just less than 20 years ago. So, but it was a similar, almost uncanny start. Iron Man made just about $600 million for Paramount, or was it Columbia? Well, whichever
Paramount.
Studio.
It was Paramount,
yes, at the time. Good reception. The same thing was happening at the time. You had a talk of fatigue for the superhero genre, because remember, we had 10 years of the first decade of the 21st century, all superhero movies, all superhero. They weren't connected, but there was a whole lot of them. So,
and they were bad, most of them.
and they were bad until you got to the Dark Knight, and then you had the diamonds in the rough, like your Spider-Man 2 and a few others, but it was not that consistency. But there was quantity, a huge quantity. Iron Man happened, changed the game. The Dark Knight was pretty much done. It was on its way out. So I see something happening with that right now. I think the Marvel did a soft one. They should have did a hard restart, but they did do a soft restart. So we'll see where it goes from there.